They told everyone I was too emotional, too invested, too eager, too much. They never said it directly, not out loud, but I felt it, in their quick glances, in the quiet group chats I wasn't added to, in the way silence replaced curiosity. They're just not ready for someone like you, my friend once told me. But that didn't help. Because I wasn't trying to be extraordinary. I was just trying to be seen, heard, felt. They rewrote my story before I had a chance to live it. She's too intense. She's hard to read. She's probably desperate. They thought I couldn't hear them, but I did. And after that one date, silence. Not a text. Not a word. Not even a reaction to my last message. The one where I simply asked, "Did you make it home okay?" Nothing. I kept refreshing my phone like the screen might suddenly breathe life into itself. Like the algorithm might shift in my favor. Like she might finally realize I was waiting. But nothing came. It wasn't just about the date. Not really. It was everything that had built up before that. The rejections. The failed interviews. The unpaid internships. The side hustle that never hustled enough. The way my parents introduced me like I was on a creative sabbatical instead of unemployed. I felt small. I felt like a ghost in my own life. Alive, yes, but unseen. And that night, that single, delicate evening I thought might lead to something, it became another thread in the unraveling fabric of my self-worth. I replayed the whole date in my head for days. Every word I said, every gesture, every laugh. Did I talk too much? Was I too enthusiastic? Did I look nervous?
She ordered tea.
I had chamomile too, just to match her. When she smiled at the menu and said, "It's my comfort drink," I replied, "Mine too," even though that was a lie. I'd never had chamomile in my life. I told myself it was just tea, just a cup. But really, it was me trying to sync myself to someone else's rhythm, just to be chosen, just to be liked. And in the end, I was ghosted anyway. Austin is warm in February, but that night was cold. I remember walking home instead of calling a ride. I needed the air. I needed the movement. I needed to convince myself that walking away didn't mean I was walking backward. That night, when I crawled into bed and stared at the ceiling, I whispered, "You're not broken. You're just early. Early to bloom. Early to be noticed. Early to be loved the way you deserve." It wasn't failure. It was something bigger, just not visible yet. Maybe I wasn't being rejected. Maybe I was being protected from a life that didn't fit, from people who couldn't hold me, from moments that weren't mine to carry. Still, the pain was real. Ghosting is a quiet cruelty. There's no fight to process. No apology to dissect. Just absence. And absence echoes. It plays tricks on your brain. Makes you question your value. Forces you to reconsider your worth in digital timestamps and seen notifications. I stopped opening dating apps after that. I stopped looking at my phone past 9 p.m. I even muted my notifications, as if turning off the sound could somehow muffle the ache. But the ache was internal, and it stayed. Until it didn't. Until something happened that no algorithm could predict. No heartbreak could erase. Until one ordinary Tuesday, when the traffic light at 6th and Lamar turned red, and I glanced up and saw my own face staring back at me. 10 feet tall. On a billboard. Lit by the sunrise. Wearing the exact same smile I'd worn that night. On that date, moments before she disappeared. And just like that, she ghosted me after one date, but my face was on a billboard the next week. My name is Olivia Carter. I'm 28 years old. I live in Austin, Texas. And this is how I learned that the things meant to break you are sometimes the things that position you for something unthinkable. I was supposed to be someone. Someone real. Someone impressive. Ever since I was 12, I'd been the girl who made vision boards and color-coded planners. While other kids dreamed of weddings or fame, I dreamed of opening my own design studio by the time I turned 30. I had the timelines, the milestones,
The drive.
Everyone around me agreed I was going places. "She's going to make it," my high school art teacher told my parents. "She's the first Carter who's got real direction," my aunt once said over Thanksgiving. A little too loud, a little too pointed at my cousins. My parents believed it too, at first. They were the type of people who smiled more at report cards than birthday candles. They showed love in expectations. And I was good at meeting them. Until I wasn't. College was supposed to be the launch pad. I got into Parsons for design, the dream. But tuition broke me. I took on 2 jobs. Burned out. Got sick. Then depressed. Then detached. By the end of my second year, I came back home to Texas with half a degree, mounting loans, and a portfolio no one asked to see. My family didn't yell. They didn't scream. Worse, they whispered. "She's just taking a break," my mom told the neighbors. "She'll go back soon," my dad muttered at a family gathering, avoiding eye contact when I stood beside him. We didn't talk about it anymore. Because talking meant facing it. And facing it meant admitting that I had failed. I started working at a bookstore downtown to cover my share of rent. Not designing. Not creating. Just folding t-shirts, recommending murder mysteries, and handing out free bookmarks with every receipt. My coworkers were kind, but I could feel their curiosity poking at me when they thought I wasn't paying attention. "You studied in New York, right? Why'd you come back? Do you still design stuff?" I lied sometimes. Told them I was freelancing on the side, building a secret project, plotting a comeback. But the truth? I hadn't touched my tablet in over a year. There was a layer of dust on my ambition. And every time I thought about trying again, that same voice crept in. Why bother? No one's looking. Dating was a distraction. A momentary illusion of connection. But even that became exhausting. I didn't want to rehearse the same answers, retell the same story, or pretend to be okay for someone who might vanish by morning. And yet I went. I said yes to Maya. We met through a local art event. She had this calm, steady energy that pulled me in. She wasn't flashy, didn't brag, didn't overtalk. Just asked thoughtful questions and listened. For the first time in months, I let myself believe something small could bloom into something real. We met at a tea house downtown. I remember everything. The soft jazz in the background, the citrus smell of her perfume, the way she held her cup with both hands like it was the only warm thing she owned. She asked about my dreams. And I told her, even the messy parts. I wanted to build a design firm that specialized in rebranding nonprofits, I said. Make impact beautiful. She smiled. That's actually incredible. Why didn't you? I swallowed hard. Life got heavy. I put it down for a while. Maya nodded like she understood. Maybe she did. We parted with a hug and a promise to talk soon. I texted her that night. No reply. The next morning, nothing. 2 days later, I sent a soft follow-up.
Hey.
Just wanted to say, I really enjoyed meeting you. Hope you're well.
And that was it.
Silence. The worst part wasn't that she ghosted me. It was that I had dared to hope. That I had peeled back the curtain just a little, only to be met with emptiness on the other side. My roommate, Tara, tried to be supportive. She probably just wasn't ready for someone like you, she said while passing me a bowl of mac and cheese. But that's the thing about rejection. It rarely feels logical. It feels personal. It chips at the corners of your confidence until your own reflection looks suspicious. After Maya, I deleted the dating app. Again. Uninstalled, reinstalled, uninstalled. The cycle of a modern romantic. And yet, I kept going through the motions. Wake up.
Shower.
Bookstore. Customers. Lattes.
Podcasts.
Podcasts about healing. Podcasts about creating. Podcasts about nothing.
Repeat.
My parents didn't ask questions anymore. They started calling my younger brother Nathan, the stable one. He worked in real estate. He was engaged. Lived in a condo. Had a golden retriever named Chase and a partner who scrapbooked. Your brother's wedding is coming up, my mom reminded me often, as if I could forget. You'll need a date. I nodded, smiled, changed the subject. My role had shifted quietly from golden girl to the free spirit no one quite knew how to define anymore. At first, I was desperate to prove them wrong. But over time, I stopped trying. They didn't notice when I changed jobs. Didn't ask when I stopped posting. Didn't care when I brought my sketchbook back out. Not because I had a plan, but because I missed the feeling of lines taking shape under my fingers. They thought I had given up. But in truth, I was slowly, quietly starting over. And no one noticed. I didn't start over with a plan. I started over with a favor. It was Tara again, my roommate, always knee-deep in some quirky nonprofit hustle. One evening, she came home balancing a laptop and a box of flyers. She looked stressed. "Olivia," she said, not even putting her keys down. "Do you know anything about Canva?" I looked up from the couch. "What kind of question is that?" "I lived on Canva for 2 years." "Perfect," she exhaled. "Our community center is launching this digital literacy thing for seniors, and our volunteer dropped out. The materials are a mess. Think you could clean them up?" I shrugged.
Sure.
"I've got time." That was the first step. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't paid. It was barely acknowledged. But it was something. I redesigned their entire starter kit in a weekend. Fonts that made sense. Color schemes that didn't scream. I even added tiny tips like don't be afraid to click twice, and if it disappears, try the back button. When Tara saw the final draft, she stopped mid-sip of her coffee. "Liv, this looks like something Apple would release." I laughed. "It's just a PDF." "No," she said, her voice softening. "It's the first time these people are going to feel like someone thought of them." That hit me.
Someone thought of them.
I hadn't felt that in a while, being thought of, being necessary, being part of a solution. The next week, I tagged along to one of the workshops. Not to teach. Just to observe. There were maybe 12 seniors in the room, each one blinking at a screen like it was a riddle in a foreign language. The air smelled like peppermint and printer ink. One woman, Elaine, kept poking the touchpad with her knuckle. "This machine hates me," she muttered. I knelt beside her. "Try using your fingertip," I said gently. She hesitated, then tried. The cursor danced. Her eyes widened. "It moved," she whispered. "Yep," I smiled. "It's not against you. It's just particular." We laughed. By the end of the session, she had typed an email to her granddaughter. "Do you think she'll see it?" Elaine asked. I nodded. "I think she's going to cry."
She did.
Elaine told me later. That was the second step. I kept coming back. Helping out. Fixing typos. Reformatting lesson plans. Adding doodles and icons to make things less intimidating. Soon I was running the Wednesday sessions. Not because anyone asked, but because it felt natural. Purposeful. There was no salary. No title. Just a growing circle of elders who now called me the computer whisperer and asked me how to save photos of their cats. It didn't make headlines. But it mattered. I started sleeping better. I started sketching again. Not logos or pitch decks, just doodles, faces, quiet moments I saw in the workshops. A pair of wrinkled hands resting on a keyboard. A man named Joseph grinning when he changed his ringtone. A widow named Betty crying after seeing her husband's military photo on Google Images. And always, always, the light in their eyes when something clicked. When you teach someone how to connect, you're not just giving them access. You're giving them dignity. That realization lit something in me. I built a basic website, nothing fancy. Just a place to store all the redesigned materials. I called it Click Kindly. Tara helped me write a bio. Olivia Carter, digital accessibility advocate and community educator. I laughed. Sounds way cooler than I feel. But she was right. It was cool. And slowly, people started noticing. Another community center reached out. Then a church group. Then a woman who ran a veterans support program in San Antonio. And each time, I made the materials better.
Clearer.
Friendlier. My Canva account was now holding the most colorful empire of kindness you could imagine. And still, I didn't tell my parents. I didn't mention it on social media. I didn't even bring it up to Maya, who still hadn't responded. Because I didn't want this new beginning to be seen through someone else's lens. I wanted it to breathe without judgment. It was fragile, but real. And it gave me something I hadn't felt in years. Direction without pressure. Love without performance. Progress without needing to be loud. Things moved fast after that. Faster than I expected, faster than I was ready for, but in the best possible way. A nonprofit based in Dallas reached out in April. They had found Click Kindly through a newsletter for tech educators. Is it true your modules have a 92% completion rate? The program coordinator asked me during a Zoom call. I blinked. Yes. But it's only been a few dozen users so far. Still, he said, leaning forward. That's rare. Really rare. They offered a small grant to adapt my materials into an online course.
So I did.
I spent every evening working on it, scripting voiceovers, designing slides, testing interface options with a few of my regular seniors at the local center. By July, we were onboarding 1,200 seniors per month. Our average retention time on the platform? 19 minutes. The industry average?
5.
I started tracking data seriously, built feedback loops, created printable PDF summaries with large fonts and friendly icons. Even hired a freelance developer to help integrate accessibility options for screen readers. Our email open rate? 78%. That's higher than some Fortune 500 companies. It was working. It was really working. And yet, when I try to share any of this at home, it landed like a whisper in a storm. One Sunday lunch, I mentioned the Dallas grant. My mom kept slicing sweet potatoes. My dad grunted and asked if I'd considered real certification. Like a degree in IT or something, he said between bites. You don't want to be stuck doing volunteer work forever. I didn't correct him. Telling them I was now being paid felt irrelevant. It wouldn't change the fact that they still saw me as unfinished. Incomplete. A version of me paused mid-frame. Teaching old folks to click buttons? My uncle joked once. Real noble work. Everyone laughed.
Except me.
That's when I realized, no matter how loud your progress is, some people stay deaf to it. I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. Because outside that dining room, I was being seen. People wrote emails that made me cry. One woman said her father had late-stage Alzheimer's, and he lit up the first time he successfully video called his sister. Another said, my mom hasn't smiled since COVID, but now she's teaching me how to schedule doctor's appointments. Each story fueled me. I launched a feature called Teach Me Tuesdays, bite-sized tutorials, 5 minutes or less. They went viral, at least in the corners of the internet where people still said thank you in full sentences. The videos made their way into retirement homes, rehab centers, libraries. I got tagged in posts that showed grandmas printing photos, grandpas opening their first online bank accounts. And still, when my cousin got accepted into law school, she got the cake. When Nathan bought a new car, he got the family group chat exploding with emojis. When I crossed 10,000 active users, I got silence. That kind of silence can bruise, you know? Not because you need applause, but because after all the healing, all the rebuilding, you still want to hear someone say, I'm proud of you. Just once. But they didn't. So I stopped waiting. Instead, I took a friend's advice and applied for a local recognition campaign called Faces of Impact Austin, a city initiative that highlights ordinary citizens doing extraordinary things. I filled out the form, told my story, didn't expect much, forgot I even applied. Then one Monday, I got an email. Congratulations. You've been selected as one of this year's Faces of Impact. Your photo will appear on local media and a downtown billboard starting next week. I read it 5 times, closed my laptop, then opened it again just to make sure it wasn't spam. A week later, my face was 10 feet tall above Lamar and 6th. No filter. Just me, smiling nervously, holding up a handwritten sign that read, Kindness is tech too. I didn't tell my family. I didn't even post it on Instagram. But strangers did.
People took selfies with it.
Tagged Click Kindly. Sent DMs. That's you? I saw you on my commute. Girl, I cried. I'd never felt more seen. Not by the people who raised me, but by the people I chose to serve. It was a Wednesday. The kind of summer day where even the breeze feels heavy and everything moves in slow motion. I had just wrapped up a morning session at the community center, a small group of seniors learning how to order groceries online. Betty had finally mastered drag and drop. Joseph got so excited he high-fived me and nearly knocked over his iced tea. I was sweaty, tired, happy. Then my phone buzzed. It was Tara. Tara, get to the park on 9th.
Now.
Trust me. I frowned. Sent a question mark. Tara, don't ask. Just go. Bring your click kindly tote. She knew I hated surprises. Still, I went. I walked across the bridge, tote bag slung over my shoulder, laptop bouncing against my hip. As I rounded the curve near the sculpture garden, I saw them. A film crew. Cameras, boom mics, ring lights. And standing under a canopy, clipboard in hand, was a woman I didn't recognize. Blonde ponytail, oversized sunglasses, a confident stance. Tara waved me over like she'd just spotted Beyoncé. Olivia, she sang out. What is this? I whispered. You're about to find out. Before I could protest, the blonde woman turned. You must be Olivia Carter, she said, extending a hand. I shook it, confused. I'm Serena. I'm the producer for Austin Moments, a local docuseries on unsung heroes. We've been following community leads for a few weeks now, and your name came up a lot. My stomach flipped. This is the show. Kind of. More like a short-form human impact segment, she smiled. We're spotlighting people whose work is quietly changing lives. She reached for a folder and handed it to me. Inside was a list of testimonials.
Dozens of them.
Names I recognized from my inbox. Quotes from users. Praise from seniors. Olivia helped me FaceTime my grandson before his surgery. She changed how I feel about technology. About myself. My mom is laughing again. I blinked back tears. You did all this, Serena said softly. And none of it is behind a paywall. That's rare. I nodded, still speechless. She gestured toward a chair. Mind if we roll? The camera turned on. I sat down. And for the next hour I told my story. How I crashed after design school. How I moved home. How one ghosted date turned into an accidental reinvention. I talked about Elaine and Joseph and Betty. I talked about Click Kindly. And then Serena asked, do you ever feel like people close to you don't see what you're doing? I paused. Yeah, I said, choosing my words carefully. But I'm learning not to need their permission to be proud of myself. She smiled. That's power. The interview ended. They packed up. Serena hugged me and said the episode would air the following week. But that wasn't the twist. The twist happened 2 days later. I was in a coffee shop downtown, laptop open, editing the next Teach Me Tuesday segment. That's when I heard it. A voice. Familiar, uncertain. Olivia? I looked up. It was her. Maya. The girl who ghosted me after one magical date 8 months ago. She was holding a coffee cup and staring at me like she'd seen a ghost. I thought, wow, it is you, she said, stepping closer. I saw the billboard. And then the article. And the video. I didn't realize until this morning that all that was you. My chest tightened. She sat across from me before I could respond. I owe you an apology, she said quietly. I ghosted you. I panicked. It had nothing to do with you. You were lovely. You were too lovely, actually. I was dealing with my own stuff, and I didn't know how to show up for someone like you. I stayed silent, unsure where this was going. She reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. This is my grandmother, she said, showing me a photo of a sweet woman in a lavender cardigan. She's the reason I've been following Click Kindly. Your program helped her reconnect with me. I blinked. She lives in Temple, she went on. The veterans group there started using your modules. One day, she FaceTimed me out of the blue, first time in years. She said she was learning the Olivia way. I had no idea that meant you. I couldn't speak. I was so floored, Maya continued. I told my brother and he was like, that's wild. I saw that girl's face on Lamar last week. That's when I put it all together. She looked down, then back up at me. You changed my grandmother's life. And mine. Without even knowing it. The air felt thick, electric. I swallowed. Maya, I said slowly. That night with you? I thought I imagined how good it felt. But hearing this, I think maybe it was real. She nodded. It was. I just wasn't ready. A long pause. Are you ready now?
I asked.
Her eyes welled up. I think I've been ready since the moment I realized who you were. We sat in that silence. Heavy, honest, beautiful. Not because I demanded attention, but because the truth walked in by itself and refused to stay quiet. After that day in the coffee shop, something inside me softened. I didn't float or glow or suddenly feel whole. It wasn't that dramatic. But it was quiet, solid, like a door had been opened, not by force, but by acknowledgement. Not long after the Austin Moments segment aired, my mom sent me a text. Saw your face on the local news. Your Nana would have been proud. That was it. No emojis. No phone call. But it meant more than I can explain. Because she mentioned my grandmother, the one who always believed in me, even when I didn't know what I was doing. The one who once told me, there's a quiet kind of brilliance in the way you notice people. I didn't respond right away. I just held my phone in my hand and stared at that message until the screen dimmed. A few days later, my brother Nathan forwarded me an email chain from his office. Subject line: Shout out to Olivia Carter, our community tech hero. He didn't say anything, just sent the forward. But he didn't have to. The silence I had once resented now felt like space. Room to breathe. Room to be. I started noticing small changes. A card arrived in the mail from my aunt. Inside was a crumpled, handwritten note that read, I never understood what you were building, but I'm glad you didn't stop. Love you. My cousin, the one who went to law school, tagged me in a Facebook post. Proud of my cousin Olivia for being the real MVP of our family, empowering seniors and building something from scratch. Check out at Click Kindly. It wasn't a flood of recognition, just small, meaningful gestures, like leaves turning in early fall, barely visible at first, but undeniable if you looked closely. And in the quiet, I found peace. Real peace. Not the kind that comes from applause or validation. The kind that comes from knowing who you are and finally being okay with it. I didn't print the emails. I didn't frame the card. I just kept them, tucked away in a drawer I rarely opened. Not because I wanted to forget, but because I didn't need to prove it anymore. I no longer counted likes, or scanned my family group chat for signs of acknowledgement, or replayed Maya's words on loop, trying to decode whether this was a second chance or just a beautiful moment. Instead, I baked banana bread with Betty on Fridays. I taught Joseph how to start a blog. I sat with Elaine as she recorded a birthday video for her great-granddaughter. Life didn't explode. It expanded.
Subtly.
Powerfully. And I realized something. It was never about the billboard, or the ghosting, or the apology. It was about what I chose to build when no one was watching. And how that thing, that simple, quiet thing, reached further than I ever could have imagined. I no longer needed to shout, because the work spoke loud enough. And I was finally listening. If you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever poured your heart into something, only to have the people closest to you shrug or look the other way. If you've ever been ghosted, misunderstood, underestimated, or left behind, then this story was for you. Because I need you to know something. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to be famous to matter. And just because someone else couldn't see your worth doesn't mean you lost it. Sometimes, your biggest breakthroughs won't look like fireworks. They'll look like a quiet email from someone who thought they'd never laugh again. A whispered thank you from a person who forgot they mattered. A single grandmother learning to send an emoji for the first time and suddenly realizing she can reconnect with her son. Those moments? They are everything. I built Click Kindly in a spare bedroom with a $300 laptop and zero expectations. And yet it found its way onto a billboard. Not because I chased it, but because people felt something and passed it forward. So maybe you're there now, building something quietly. Or maybe you're healing. Or maybe you're standing at the edge of something new, holding your breath, afraid to take that first step because no one's watching. Let me tell you something I wish someone told me. Do it anyway. Not because someone might eventually notice, but because you already know it's worth doing. Do it because the people who need your light will find it, even if they come late, even if they don't understand it at first. And one day, a stranger might walk in and tell you they felt it. A person from your past might return with new eyes. Or a version of you you'd forgotten might rise again, stronger than before. And when that happens, I hope you remember what I learned the hard way. It was never about proving anything. It was about becoming. So,
Tell me something.
where are you watching from? What are you building quietly? What story is growing inside you, waiting to be told? Drop a comment. Say hello. Tell your truth. Someone out there needs it. And if no one said it to you in a while, let me be the one. I see you. I believe in you. And I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for letting my quiet story fill your quiet moment. And if you're still watching, just know your Billboard moment is coming. And it won't need lights. It'll need you.
See you in the next story.